So last Friday, we learned about the story of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. When he was born, where he was born, what was his life before Islam, how he found his way to Islam, how he converted to Islam, and then what happened after he converted to Islam, what happened to Islam after Umar radiallahu anhu openly declared his new faith, and then the story of his migration to Medina and then settling in Medina, and then when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, then what role Umar radiallahu anhu played in unifying the community, in unifying the Muslims on the leadership of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the first Khalifa of Islam, and also the first Amirul Mu'mineen in Islam, and the successor to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's rule lasted for a little more than 2 years. 2 years, 2 months and few days. So the time that he had as the leader was not very long. 2 years period is not a very long period. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did accomplish a lot during his time as Khalifa, but he obviously did not have that much time to go farther and expand the area which was under the rule of Islam. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did deal with challenges, massive challenges, like the challenges of apostasy led by Musaylima and Aswad al-Anasi and people like them. And he successfully curbed those rebellions. He successfully mounted challenges against those rebellions and crushed them. So during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, there was this initial turmoil which Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was very successfully able to handle and overcome. So after this short period of 2 years, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passed away. And that is the cycle of life. No one who has come here forever. Everyone who has come here has to leave one day. So when the time came for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his life, his age was similar to the age of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he left from this world, was 63 years old. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he left from this world, he was also 63 years old. And then he found his resting place next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passed away, before he left from this world, he did something that was not done before. So he appointed Umar radiallahu anhu to be his successor. This was not something that was done in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left from this world, he did not explicitly appoint someone to be his successor. Although he left enough clues for people to figure out that no one has more qualification to lead and to succeed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself said very clearly to Aisha radiallahu anha, that people will not agree on anyone more than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. There's no one who's more qualified than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. There's no one who's more capable than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And that's what happened when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left from this world. People did agree on the leadership of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and they did pledge their allegiance to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. But when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was leaving from this world, he did not want any disunity behind him. He did not want any fraction after his departure. So he wanted to keep that momentum intact. Therefore, there was he appointed Umar radiallahu anhu to be his successor, because after him there was no one more qualified than Umar radiallahu anhu. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu appointed Umar radiallahu anhu to be his successor. So when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passed away, Umar radiallahu anhu became the Khalifa, and people pledged their allegiance to Umar radiallahu anhu. And this happened even before the burial of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu took place. After people pledged allegiance to Umar radiallahu anhu, and the continuation of this system did not break even for a minute. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was buried. And then Umar radiallahu anhu, he started his rule on the commitment of obeying the book of Allah and obeying the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he would often say that I'm one of you, I'm just like you. Allah has given me this responsibility to take care of you, not to be your boss, not to rule over you, and not to oppress you, not to take your rights away from you. Allah has given me this responsibility to look after you. And this is exactly what I intend to do. So Umar radiallahu anhu started his time as Amirul Mu'mineen and as the second Khalifa in Islam. In the initial years of the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, there was a lot of military movement. So Umar radiallahu anhu had some of the best people among Arabs who were commanders, who were skilled warriors, best soldiers. He appointed those people as the commanders of the military. And every time Umar radiallahu anhu would dispatch an army to a mission, to accomplish a mission, he would go and walk with them. By the way, this was the practice of the Prophet ﷺ as well. He would walk with the army that he was dispatching, and he would go a few miles with them. And then once they were on their way, then the Prophet ﷺ would return. Umar radiallahu anhu would do the same thing. But Umar radiallahu anhu, because he learned from the Prophet ﷺ, he learned from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he became a very skilled person. So every time Umar radiallahu anhu would dispatch an army, he would give them a set of instructions, what to do and how to do. And then as the army would proceed towards its mission, Umar radiallahu anhu would receive periodic updates. Where the army is now. And then if the mission needed to be modified, if the instructions needed to be modified in any way, Umar radiallahu anhu would immediately send the instructions. And sometimes Umar radiallahu anhu would draw the maps, and he would send the maps to the commander and say to the commander that you need to follow these maps. So there is a lot that we can talk about the life of Umar radiallahu anhu, but I would like to narrow this to certain aspects of the achievements of Umar radiallahu anhu. So before we go into the things that Umar radiallahu anhu did, unlike anyone else in the history of mankind, and in particular in the history of Islam, there is an important question that very often lingers around our minds, and that is the style of leadership of Umar radiallahu anhu. Was it democratic or autocratic? Was it a democracy or autocracy? So during that time, if you study the systems that were in practice at that time among Arabs, the system that they had were the tribal systems. And in a tribal system, the leader of the tribe is selected from the people, but the leader of the tribe has the absolute authority. The leader of the tribe does not consult with anyone. The leader of the tribe does not need anyone's permission for anything. The leader of the tribe has the absolute authority. And when an individual has the absolute authority of doing everything and is above the law, that is the definition of autocracy. That is the definition of autocratic rule. When an individual has all the power, has amassed all the authority, and no one can question that individual who's the boss, who's the ruler, and everyone else is subject to that. Now, if we analyze the leadership of Umar radiallahu anhu, we can clearly come to understand that Umar radiallahu anhu never treated himself as an individual who has all the power in his hands and who has the control, absolute control in his hands. And Umar radiallahu anhu never did anything without consultation. So here are some of the things that Umar radiallahu anhu did in order to distinguish himself from autocracy, from the tribal system that was common over there. Arabs, they had their own tribal systems, and beyond those tribal systems, they had alliances. Even in modern times, if you go into the Arab countries, Iraq and Yemen and those places, they still have very powerful influences of those tribal systems. If the national leader wants to get something done, he has to go to the tribal leaders and get their consent, get them on board. Only then the national leader is able to get something done. So Umar radiallahu anhu moved away from that tribal system. Now Umar radiallahu anhu was the leader of all Muslims. By that time, we know that Mecca was already part of the Islamic land. Medina was the capital, and there were some other parts of Hijaz, Bahrain, Yemen, and others. They were also part of the Islamic land. But Iraq was not. Egypt was not. Iran or Persia was not. Faris was not. Sham was not. So all of these major parts that surround the Arabian Peninsula, they were not part of the Islamic land. And they all had different empires. So Persia was a Persian empire, and Sham, Palestine, and even Egypt was under the influence of the Roman Empire. And those were the competing powers, Roman Empire and Persian Empire. And Islam was emerging at that time. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he organized a military, a very powerful military. And he was the first one to organize a system of the military. The militaries that were there in the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire, they were massive, but they were not organized. As we read through the history, we learn that they did not have one leader that they would follow. They had, whenever there was a military campaign, the emperor would call upon the leaders of the military commanders, and they would come together, and then they would enforce something. But they did not have a unity system. Umar radiallahu anh, he consulted with the companions and asked them for their suggestions. So many of them gave different suggestions, and some of them suggested that maybe we should put the names of all the people who are capable of fighting into one register, and we should organize them. And Umar radiallahu anh liked that opinion, and he put them in that register. So Umar radiallahu anh, he formed this council, the Shura Council, where he would throw all the important matters before that council. Who were the people who were part of that council? All the senior companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were included in that Shura Council. And from Muhajirin, there were two groups of Muslims, Muhajirin and Ansar. Those who migrated from Mecca and those who were the natives of Medina. These were the two main groups of Muslims. So Umar radiallahu anh made sure that all the senior members from both sides are part of that council. So in that council there was Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anh, there was Sa'd bin Ubadah radiallahu anh, and there was Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah radiallahu anh, Ali radiallahu anh, Uthman radiallahu anh, Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh. All the senior companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were part of that council. So whenever something important was to be addressed, Umar radiallahu anh would put that before this council. And how would this council meet, and where would it meet? It would always meet in Masjid al-Nabawi. There was no other place, because Masjid was the best place, and Masjid was the place where these kind of meetings should happen. So Umar radiallahu anh would call the meetings, and all the members of the council would come into the masjid and meet over there. And whenever there was a need for a meeting, the muaddin would call as-salatu jami'ah, that prayer is to be performed now, and people should come to the masjid, and all these people would come to the masjid, and then they would offer the prayer, whatever prayer it was. And after the prayer, Umar radiallahu anh would open the session and put the matter before all the members of the council. And then he would seek their opinions. And then literally they would do voting. Many times there were differences of opinion. Some members would have one opinion, and other members would have a different opinion. So Umar radiallahu anh would often decide on the number of votes. So wherever the majority of votes would fall, that would be the decision approved by Umar radiallahu anh. And then Umar radiallahu anh also had a council that would decide on minor management issues about the city or about other minor things around the city. And that was like a town hall. We are familiar here with the town hall meetings. What happens in a town hall meeting? It's open to all the members of the community. Anybody can come and they can put their opinion out there. They can ask questions, whatever that is. Umar radiallahu anh was the one who introduced that. And Umar radiallahu anh had made that town hall council. And on these kind of issues, whenever he needed the opinion of the people, he would call all the people in the masjid who were interested to opine, who were interested to get involved. They would all come into the masjid, and then they would have the discussion, they would have the meeting. And then Umar radiallahu anh would seek the opinions and seek the votes of the people, whatever and however people would vote. This is how Umar radiallahu anh would decide. These evidences and proofs and others convince us that Umar radiallahu anh was not an autocrat. His leadership style was democratic and more sincere democracy than we can see in even the modern democracies. Because Umar radiallahu anh never held himself above the law. Umar radiallahu anh never held anyone in special preference. All the people were equal under the law, whether the person is a governor or a judge or has some other power. Umar radiallahu anh also is credited with introducing different institutions of the government. Our government is made of three institutions: executive, judiciary, and legislative. So we have three branches of the government. Umar radiallahu anh did something very similar to this. So Umar radiallahu anh had executive power in his control. And then he established the institution of courts, the judiciary system, where he appointed some of the most qualified people in that time to become the judges. And he established courts in every city, in every village. So people don't have to go far to seek justice. And he made sure that if people want to come, the doors of where were the courts? Masajid were the courts. The court sessions would be held in the masjid. Why? Because masjid is most accessible. So he instructed the judges that if you are holding a session, make sure the doors are open and no one can be turned away from the door. Anyone who comes for any issue, he has his needs, his issues have to be addressed. And his concerns have to be resolved. And Umar radiallahu would make sure that the laws are enforced. Whatever the laws were, they were all under the guidance of Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were enforced. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he chose the best people to be the judges. And those judges were made accessible. Umar radiallahu anhu also made sure that the judges, they are getting decent, good salary. So they're not seeking a second job or a third job to sustain their family, sustain their needs, to fulfill their needs. And he would make sure that those people are not taking favors from anybody or not doing favors to anybody. They're being just to everybody. They're treating everybody equally under the law. And Umar radiallahu anhu, one of the very first thing he did after the successful military expeditions, after Syria or Sham was conquered, after Egypt was taken, after Faris was taken, Umar radiallahu anhu, he introduced the concept of provinces. So he divided all the Islamic land into a number of provinces. Many historians say that he divided the land into 8 provinces. One was Mecca, another one was Medina, another one was Jazeera, another one was Kufa, another one was Basra, another one was Sham, another one was Palestine, Palestine, another one was Egypt. These were the provinces that Umar radiallahu anhu introduced, and they were based on the number of people living in those areas and the land. So the way he drew the borders of these provinces were based on the number of people living in those areas and the needs and the resources that they had, the resources of water and the farms and the fertile lands, all of that. He considered all of that when he was drawing the borders of those lands. And then Umar radiallahu anhu appointed governors to those lands. He appointed governors. So governor was the top person who was accountable, directly accountable to Umar radiallahu anhu, who was Amirul Mu'mineen. And after the rank of governor, Umar radiallahu anh also appointed people as wali or wali, meaning the rulers who were similar to chief minister or similar to a governor that we have in America, a governor who is responsible in managing the everyday affairs of the province or the state, or the chief minister in other countries. So those were the people responsible for management. And in those ranks, Umar radiallahu anh also introduced the rank of the judge, where the judge would sit and how the judge will be treated, and then the system of police and the system of enforcement of law enforcement. All of that Umar radiallahu anh introduced during his time. So the people that Umar radiallahu anh chose to be the governors, they were also the best people during that time. Some of the people that Umar radiallahu anh appointed as governors, I will share the names, some of those people with you. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, and he is one of those 10 companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who are also called Al-Asharatul Mubashara, the 10 companions who were given the good news of Jannah in this life. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also called Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh Aminu Hadhihi al-Ummah, the trustee of this ummah. And that is Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh. So Umar radiallahu anh appointed Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh to be the Amir of Medina. I'll share one story of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh with you. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh was the governor of Sham. Once there was a battle between the Muslim army and the Persian army. So Sham was conquered before Persia and before Egypt. So during that time, the army of Persians, they prepared very well in advance, and they came with a massive army. And they challenged the Muslim army to come and fight with them. So it was expected that the fight was going to be very, very serious, and there will be a massive number of casualties as a result of that massive war that was going to take place between the Persian army and the Muslim army. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, he called upon all the soldiers who were under his leadership. When he called upon all of them, they all came, and they were still not enough. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh called other people as well who were given responsibilities to protect the lands, to protect the towns and villages. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh called them as well. And he said, we're still not enough, but we all have to go. So some of them suggested that, why don't we call Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, who was in Palestine at that time, and why don't we call other people who are in other areas as well? They can help us, and we can become a strong army against the Persian army together. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, he appreciated their opinion, and he did send a letter to Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, and Amr ibn As radiallahu anh, and Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh. But Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, as he was leaving the town, he said, we cannot leave this town and take the money that we have taken from these people. So there were a lot of Jews and Christians living in Syria. And when Muslims came into Syria, they protected all the Jews and Christians. They said, we will protect you, we will protect your homes, we'll protect your lives, we'll protect your dignity, we'll protect everything. And for that protection, we will charge you the tax. So that tax that was collected from these people, it amounted to be 800,000 dirham, which is a lot of money that was collected at that time. And it was recently collected, maybe a few weeks ago. So they all had all that money. They did not spend a dime from that. They all had that money that was collected, and they put it into Baytul Mal. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, he said to the person who was responsible for overseeing the funds, he said, I want you to take this money and return it to the people that you collected from, and let them know that we are unable to protect you because we all have to leave for a mission, and in our absence there will be no protection. Therefore, we are not worthy of taking this money from you, and we are returning this money to you. We're not allowed to take this money from you because we took it for giving you protection in return, and we are not able to provide that protection. Therefore, we will return this money to you now. So first they refused to accept the return, but once they accepted it, these Jews and Christians in Syria, they said, we hope that your enemy gets defeated and you come back soon and come back to our homes. These are the prayers of Jews and Christians in Syria who were saying to Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh, because of what they did, and the time that they were there, they left such beautiful imprint on the minds of the people there that they were so happy that Muslims were there and protecting them. So when Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh was leaving, they were crying and they were saying, we ask Allah to bring you back as soon as possible, and we ask Allah to defeat your enemy, the Persians and the Romans. And after some time, Muslims did go back there. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anh was one of the governors, and then another governor was Muawiyah radiallahu anh. Another governor was Amr bin As radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Egypt. Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Kufa in Iraq. And Utbah bin Ghazwan radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Basra. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Yemen. And Utab bin Usayd radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Makkah. And Uthman bin Abil As radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Taif. Nu'man bin Bashir radiallahu anh, who was the governor of Madain. And Uthman bin Hunayf radiallahu anh, who was the governor of another part of Iraq. So these are just some names that Umar radiallahu anh selected to be the governors. Now all the governors in the time of Umar radiallahu anh, they were fully accountable to Umar radiallahu anh. And Umar radiallahu anh had written to the people in those provinces that if anyone has a complaint, you can either bring that complaint directly to me, or you can take it to your governor. If your governor does not resolve your concern, then bring that complaint to me. I will address that concern. And there are so many examples, so many incidents where a complaint was brought against the governor to Umar radiallahu anh, and Umar radiallahu anh immediately summoned that governor to Medina, called that person to Medina, asked the question. If the answers were not satisfactory to Umar radiallahu anh, he would suspend them. He has suspended even senior companions of the Prophet ﷺ, like Amr ibn As radiallahu anh, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh, others. He suspended them because of the complaints that were outstanding against them, and they were not able to answer those questions. And then Umar radiallahu anh also told all the governors, every year during the time of Hajj, you must come for Hajj. And the main reason why he was calling them for Hajj was to have a meeting in Makkah. So Makkah was the place where every year all the governors from all the provinces would come and meet with Umar radiallahu anh face to face. And Umar radiallahu anh would say openly to all the people who were there that if anyone has any complaint against any governor, come and say it before me. And once a man came and he told Umar radiallahu anh, and he had a complaint against Amr ibn As radiallahu anh. He said, Amr ibn As, who's our governor, he gave me 100 lashes unjustly, wrongfully, and I want revenge from him. So Amr ibn As radiallahu anh told Umar radiallahu anh that this would be very disrespectful, and this will look really bad if you do that in front of the public to me. So Umar radiallahu anh said, I swear by Allah in whose hand is my life, I will establish justice. So if this is true, then I will take that revenge from you in public. So then Umar radiallahu anh, he asked for proof and for evidence, and it turned out to be right that this person was wronged. He was wrongfully sentenced. So Umar radiallahu anh told that person, I give you permission to apply 100 lashes in public to Amr ibn As radiallahu anh. And this was something very serious. So Amr ibn As radiallahu anh, he went to that person, asked for forgiveness, and he said, would you be okay if I give you 2 dirham for each lash and you forgive me? So the person accepted the deal. This was the deal that was made between Amr ibn As radiallahu anh and this common man. Now this shows the power that Umar radiallahu anh had given to the people. And Umar radiallahu anh himself was not above the law. Many times Umar radiallahu anh would be standing in public and someone would say to him, Ittaqillah ya Umar, oh Umar, fear Allah. There was one incident where someone was repeatedly saying to Umar radiallahu anh, Ittaqillah ya Umar, Ittaqillah ya Umar, oh fear Allah Umar. Now, at some point, this can become an insult. This means that you're not fearing Allah. You're a bad person. You're a wrong person. You're doing wrong. So, someone said to that man, have some shame. Why are you repeatedly saying to Umar radiallahu anh, Ittaqillah, Ittaqillah, stop it now. Umar radiallahu anh heard that and he said, don't stop him. If people like him will not remind us, then they are useless. And if we don't heed to their reminder, then we are heedless. So people in public have to keep reminding the leaders what they are accountable to, and people in leadership have to heed to those reminders. And there's a famous story where Umar radiallahu anh once he thought that he would limit the amounts of dowry that men were giving to women. Men began giving large amounts of dowry to women. And Umar radiallahu anh thought this is extravagance. So Umar radiallahu anh, through his executive power, he one day suggested in public, he said, I'm thinking of putting a ban and putting a limit on the amounts of dowry that men are giving to women. So a woman who was in that gathering, in that meeting, she stood up and she said, oh Umar, are you going to overrule the book of Allah? Who gives you power and authority to overrule the book of Allah? And then she recited the ayah of the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that women are entitled to the heaps of gold and silver, even if they are given that. So she tried to make a point to Umar radiallahu anh that if a man wants to give a lot of money in dowry to his spouse, who are you to put a limit on that? Who gives you the authority to put a limit that, okay, you can only give this much but not that much? So Umar radiallahu anh retracted. He said, I admit it was my mistake and I will not suggest something like that again. And there are many other examples where Umar radiallahu anh did that, because Umar radiallahu anh was known for his obedience to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would say, كَانَ وَقَّافًا عِنْدَ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Whenever he was reminded of the book of Allah, the command of Allah, of the verse of Quran, he would immediately pause. He would immediately surrender and he would give him. This was the nature of Umar radiallahu anh. And then Umar radiallahu anh, he established the system of prisons. In the time before Umar radiallahu anh, there was no concept of prisons in Arabia. But Umar radiallahu anh, when there were crimes being committed in some places and some sentences were being issued, there was no place where the people would be sent to as a prisoner. So Umar radiallahu anh purchased some properties where he would house those those people who had committed some crimes for the period that they were sentenced to. So Umar radiallahu anh, he introduced that system. But Umar radiallahu anh, more importantly, he established the system Baytul Mal. And when he established the system of Baytul Mal, meaning the treasury, where all the funds of zakah, all the funds of sadaqah, and all the funds from public works, from taxation, and all of that were collected, Umar radiallahu anh, he sent some people to count the number of heads in each city and in each village. So he did a census, which was never done before. So it was done in the time of Umar radiallahu anh because he'd already drawn the borders. He'd already divided the provinces and the districts of each provinces. Each province had many districts. So each district had its own mayor kind of person who would manage the system in that town, in that city. So Umar radiallahu anh sent people to count the number of people in each home. And based on the number of people, Umar radiallahu anh, he issued monthly stipends for the family members, for the man, for the woman, for the children. This was something that was done in the time of Umar radiallahu anh, because Umar radiallahu anh made sure that no one should die out of starvation under his leadership. And then there was the issue of distributing lands. A lot of Umar radiallahu anh ended up ruling over an area of 2.2 million square miles, which is massive. So Umar radiallahu anh, he was not in favor of giving the lands to those people who were involved in conquering that land. There were many others whose opinion was that the land should be distributed among those people. Umar radiallahu anh called upon the council, and he put the issue before the council, and he asked the people to vote and to give their opinion. So many of them, they suggested that no, this land should be given to them, and Umar radiallahu anh was not in favor of that. He said, my idea is that this land should belong to the government and not to the individuals. Because once it goes into the hands of individuals, then it will become their inheritance. Then they will own it for generations. So Umar radiallahu anhu's argument was, and then he found his support in Quran, in the ayah لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ الَّذِينَ أُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ وَأَمْوَالِهِمْ يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا. So Umar radiallahu anh, his argument was that if we start distributing this land in these people who are alive now, this will be owned by them, and then it will be their inheritance and it would transfer to their family. So what will happen to people who will come later? They will have no land and they will have no ownership. So in order to protect the rights of the people, not only who are alive now, but who will come later, we need to maintain the ownership of these lands in the hands of the government, not in the hands of individuals. Once he presented his argument before the council, majority of the members of the council agreed, and when they voted in favor of the opinion of Umar radiallahu anh, and that has been the case until today. So Umar radiallahu anh, he established Baytul Mal, he established the courts in that time, and then he established the education system. He really focused on that. And then he focused on the public works, where he focused on building bridges. He focused on building rivers and canals for the benefits of the people. Until today, there hasn't been any example where people have had more prosperity than what they had during the time of Umar radiallahu anh in all of Arabia. Whether it is Mecca or Medina or Sham or Palestine or Egypt or Faris, all of that. And Faris actually was made of three major areas. One was Azerbaijan, which is called Ma Wara'un Nahar, beyond the river, on the other side of the river. And then in that was one province, Azerbaijan. That was one province where there were many districts. And then another province was Faris, which had the area of Khurasan. And then another province was Nishapur. That was another major province. So Umar radiallahu anhu, when he took control of all of that, he made sure that the rights of the individuals are being respected. And then there were times when Umar radiallahu anhu had to travel himself. He would never travel as someone who's superior to others. He would travel like other people, and he never took any special privileges, any special treatments for as long as he was Amirul Mu'mineen. And then he focused on expanding Masjid al-Haram for the first time after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He focused on expanding Masjid al-Nabawi. When he was expanding Masjid al-Haram, many homes were very, very close to the Kaaba. So those homes had to be demolished and had to be removed. So Umar radiallahu anh sent a letter to all the people that we would like to buy your land at not just the face value, market value, but we will pay you more. We will pay you more than the market value of your land. So we need to take possession of your land. Some people refused. They said, we don't want to give our home. We don't want to sell our home. And that's where the question of public domain comes in. So Umar radiallahu anh, he was disappointed at the response that he received from some people when he wanted to expand Masjid al-Haram. So he went personally to Mecca. He went over there and he had a meeting with people, town hall. He called all the people and he had a town hall with the members of the community in Mecca, and he personally interacted with them. And then those people who were refusing to give their land to Umar radiallahu anhu, he said to them, listen, I was being very nice and polite to you. I was not taking your land from you forcefully. I was paying you for your land and paying you more than the market value of your land. But now, the expansion of the masjid is a need of the time, and that takes precedence. And we have to give priority to the expansion of the masjid because there are more people coming to masjid and they need room to pray. And your homes are an obstruction in the worship of those people. So we need to take your home. So whether you give it willingly or unwillingly, we will take it. And then he told them this historic statement. He said, أنتم نزلتم للكعبة وليست الكعبة نزلت عليكم. He said, you are the ones who came to the Kaaba. Kaaba did not come to you. So if Kaaba needs to expand, you will move. Kaaba takes priority because you are the people who came to take home near Kaaba. Now Kaaba has a need to expand. So if Kaaba needs to expand, you will move away. Kaaba will not move away. We will not move Kaaba to some other place. Kaaba, if needs more place, then we will make the expansion. And if your home is in that way, we will have to move your home. And then everybody agreed to that. And then they gave their land. So Umar radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, has left a long and lasting legacy behind. There's probably in the history of Islam no one who has left more lasting legacy after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam than Umar radiallahu anhu. And we can go on and on in the details of what he did, how he did, and how successful he was. But at the end, when it was his time for death, he sent a message to Aisha radiallahu anha, the beloved wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I would like to be buried next to my friends, next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and next to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So if you give me permission, then I will tell my son Abdullah and I will tell my family to bury me next to my friends Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Aisha radiallahu anha said that I was saving that spot for myself, but I give you preference over myself. I accept to be buried in Jannatul Baqi, and I will give that place that I reserve for myself to you. So Umar radiallahu anh was very happy, and he accepted that. When he was dying, he told his son that, listen, I am very happy that Aisha radiallahu anha Ummul Mu'mineen has given permission for my body to be buried in her home next to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But after I have died, do not take my body for burial. Take my body and put it outside her home, and then ask her for permission again, because I'm afraid she might have said yes to me as Amirul Mu'mineen when I'm alive, but if she changes her mind after I'm dead, then take my body and bury it in Jannatul Baqi. So this is exactly what Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh did. After they washed the body of Umar radiallahu anh and they shrouded his body, they did the janaza, then they took the body to the door of Aisha radiallahu anha's home, and then they asked for permission again. When she gave permission, that's when they did the grave over there. And this is the life of Umar radiallahu anh. May Allah be pleased with him. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Any questions? Yes.
I'm just gonna ask, like, maybe my sound very, very not there, but so the Prophet ﷺ was buried inside the house.
Yes.
Abu Bakr was radiallahu anhu also was buried there. So where Aisha radiallahu anha used to live inside the house?
So, can someone bring my phone? I wish I could show it on the projector. I would show you exactly what he's asking. So, let me first describe it for you. So, let's say this was the home of Aisha radiallahu anha. So, when Rasulullah was buried, he was buried right here, on the southern side of the home, southern wall, which was towards Kaaba. So he was buried right here, and that's where the boundary was. He was buried right next to the front wall of the house, which is now part of Riyadh al-Jannah. So he was buried over there, and next to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was no, we can't connect it to that. No, I won't. It won't work. Yeah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was her husband, and she did not have to do any hijab or anything. So his grave was there, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave was there, and she was still living in that house. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anh passed away. He was buried right behind the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave ended right here, and this is where his feet was. So 1 foot on the other side, starting from the feet of the Prophet ﷺ, that's where the grave of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was. So his head was parallel to the feet of the Prophet ﷺ, and it was 1 foot on the other side, on the northern side. And then when Umar radiallahu anh passed away, that's when his grave was made parallel to the feet of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, 1 foot further on the northern side. So when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was buried, Aisha radiallahu anh still did not need to do anything, because it was her father and her husband who were buried there in that home, and that's fine. She did not have to do anything extra to cover herself or anything. But when Umar radiallahu anh was buried in that home, Aisha radiallahu anh was still living in that home, but since Umar radiallahu anh was not her relative, so she built a wall. So now the 3 graves came into a walled area, and Aisha radiallahu anh was living on the other side of the wall, and the graves were on this side of the wall. So this is what happened. I have a picture of that if someone wants to see that. But this is how it was. The graves were in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I will not WhatsApp. All right, inshallah. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.